I'm sorry. To be super frank, Final Fantasy 15 sucks.
Listen to my story.
It all begins here.
I know.
This is a one-time gig.
Hello, welcome all to SuperFrank, a SuperFrank podcast where we talk about various things, various topics, mostly video games. And to be super frank, don't care about your take. So anyways, I am your host, Super Sanctus, here with Frankie. I don't know if I should say your full name. I think we might
probably just stick with Frankie.
Frankie J, you know?
Frankie J, Frankie, yep.
So good. But welcome to our very first episode of Super Frank. We're really excited to get started here. Our topic for the day is Final Fantasy.
Ranking the Final Fantasies.
Yeah, we're gonna rank ours. We're gonna rank just the main titles, Final Fantasy 1 through 15.
Yes.
None of the odds and ends ones, the add-ons, the
sequels, or
whatever. It's just the main 15, and we're gonna give them our ratings from our favorite to our least favorite. I think I'm going to go that way.
No way, okay.
Because if it wasn't a little obvious, that's what I'm wearing.
With
I
the
think
shirt,
we're going to get started with my favorite.
Absolutely,
It's pretty quick here. Let me get out my list. I'm going to run through it real quick. We'll let Frankie go through his, and then we're going to discuss why our top ones are at the top, why our bottom ones are at the bottom a little bit more in detail.
Explain our process our rating, and things like that.
So to get started, in order for me to go through it, I had to sit down and kind of like, all right, what makes it a Final Fantasy? What makes it a great game?
Yes.
Why is it the way it is? So I broke them down into a bunch of different ways. I did it story, the gameplay, the Final Fantasy factor, which to be more precise on it, does it have chocobos, Moogles, Tonberry, Cactuar? How many of the Final Fantasy favorites things
that we've seen throughout the series that makes it feel a Final Fantasy. Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. The Final Fantasy factor, like how much of the RPG aspect is in there. The typical things is that world map. Does it have an airship? Is it how much exploration there is? So
right. Yep.
That one was kind of that category. Characters, the replay value. I put it as like the desire to replay it. Can I get a different experience every time I play?
Right.
Do I value it as worth the time to play it again? And then obviously music.
Music. Yep.
It's got to be a big one.
Yeah.
So I really went down into deep detail on this, but to keep it brief here, I'm just going to start with obviously number 1 is 7. I gave it also ratings from S+ down to F. As what I rated them, so I'll go through those ones. So I gave 7 S+.
Super,
yes,
and F is super, frankly,
and
bad.
To be super frank, it was bad. So
kind of
number 1, 7 at an S+. Number 2, I put 9 as an S. 3, I put 10 as an S-. 13 as an A. Pretty still high up there. And then we got 8 at number 5 at a B+.
Right, yeah.
We've got at number 6.
Okay.
That's how it went. I gave it a B. Solid B, still solid. 7 is Final Fantasy 12 with a B. Again, still solid.
Yep.
Still very solid game. Then at number 8, I put 14. Real quick, I gave it a C+.
The asterisk by it.
But yeah, there kind of needs an asterisk. It's kind of like, this is a generalization. I haven't personally finished the last 2 expansions.
I do forget
so this was me.
So you don't have the Shadowbringers, the Endwalker.
I played for like 5 months, and I didn't get through that. I got sidetracked with other games. So this is
a little bit of the
C+ is based on the first 3 expansions that I played. The Realm Reborn, Heaven's Ward, and Stormblood. So
But again, I think it ties into, like you were saying, the rating of it, of kind of one aspect of it is something like time to play can be, you know, something that kind of goes in the rating where you can play most others and, you know, how many 40 to 60 hours, but then it's like this one to get the full experience, you go through Shadowbringers and Endwalker, how many more hours it takes kind of affects that.
Yeah, exactly why that one, I rated it at a C+.
Right.
There's other aspects, obviously, that were great, but that aspect kind of brought it down a little. So anyways, so number 9, I have Final Fantasy IV at a C. This is where we're starting to get into the old ones, and it's just harder because we didn't grow up at those.
Yes,
they were behind us, so we don't have as much of the nostalgic factor, which I didn't really put into the rating, but kind of do.
But
it is missing some of those things in these categories by that point. Still solid. Not saying I don't love these games, still love these games, but as Final Fantasy
some games just had to be lower with the rating.
To be lower, you know. So at 10 I have then I go 2 a C, then 1 at a C minus. Now we're getting to the Final Fantasy 3, I give it a D. It's still Final Fantasy, still love it, but man, it's got some issues. And number 14, I put Final Fantasy 15. I could make an entire episode of this one. I put it as an F. I'm sorry to be super frank. Final Fantasy 15 sucks. I was thoroughly disappointed. I remember playing it the first time, and everybody kept asking me, "How's the game going? How's the game going?" I'm like 5 hours in, I'm like, it's going good so far.
It's fun.
But it's missing something. 10 hours in, it's fun, but it's still missing something. And I'm waiting for the story to really kick in. I'm really waiting for there to be other aspects that haven't shown up.
and then
it was 20, 30, 40 hours in. I think I played for 50, 60 hours. Got through all of it. Did most of the side stuff. Got to the end. Got the airship. Landed it, veered off a little bit, got game over. For the first time in the whole game was after I beat it, just landing the airship, get game over. I was so mad.
Oh, man.
Ruined the entire experience. I recently have replayed it. I'm in the process of replaying it. But again, it's still all the fixes. It still is just... God, it's hard for me to just
We've said it before.
Keep playing.
The bad outweighs the good. There's just too much stuff that takes you off, that frustrates you, that just the little good there is in there.
We could go through.
We can make a whole episode
if you want.
15.
A whole episode of Final Fantasy 15.
Let us know in the comments if that's what you want. Yeah, make an episode about 15.
So the one that I haven't mentioned at 15 is Final Fantasy 11. I put it at an NA because I have not played it. It's the only one. 20 something years here later.
Yes, yeah, it's the one.
I still have not played it. It's just hard to get a hold of. We were too young to really have access to a good computer to get it at the time.
And really, just the time too itself. I don't think many people could. I mean, this is early 2000s, so.
And I just.
But we can't give it the fair shake that it maybe deserves.
Exactly. That's why I put NA. I'm like, not necessarily saying it's bad. I'm just saying
we don't know.
Unfortunately, haven't got to it.
Yeah,
so,
but that's also part of it.
That's also part of why it's not at the top. If it was an amazing game, I probably would have actually gotten to it at this point. Would have probably heard from other people that you have to play this one.
It's worth the hassle.
I've heard maybe 1 or 2 people that have told me that 11's great, you have to play it, but the vast majority of people are in the same boat, I think.
Yeah.
So that's a quick rundown of mine.
Right.
Basically saying Final Fantasy VII, hard to top that. Nostalgic factor, very first Final Fantasy we've ever played.
Yep.
Cloud's my favorite.
Can't.
Can't.
Hard to beat. Absolutely.
It's just really hard to beat that.
Really,
I don't know that anyone's ever going to top 7.
If there had to be like a poster boy for Final Fantasy, it's probably Cloud. Yeah. Like that's probably the.
I know that's probably the overrated. Some of you guys are probably like, really, that's so overly done. 7, I can't believe it's favorite. Let us know in the comments how you feel, but that's just the biggest part for me. It's hard to say anything truly bad. Obviously it has its moments, but you go back to it being at the time, it was so much better at the time.
That's another thing.
Mind-blowing for me as a 5 or 6 year old, 7-year-old, when I first was playing. Just so good. And here it is,
holds up. 25 anniversary just happened, right?
Yeah, it came out
That's why I think like Crisis Core just came out.
Yeah.
The 25th anniversary. So 25 years
later, I still am playing it. I'm trying to play
learning
it with,
new things,
with
understanding
my 5-year-old
the story.
son. I'm trying to get him into it. Like, I really want to play through it again. It's so great. So many spin-offs of it. And
Shout out
it's just
Ares
fantastic.
Adventures.
Yeah. Yes. Shout out Ares Adventures. Working on getting to do a segment playing through with him, but he still doesn't have the attention span to get through the story.
Coming soon.
Can't appreciate it as much as I do, but anyway, so that's mine. We're gonna let Frankie here go through his.
All right, I got my list here. I was working on it earlier before you got here. So I'm gonna go opposite. I'm gonna start on the bottom, and then I'm gonna work my way up. So I got on the bottom of the list, I have Final Fantasy 14 1.0. Not to be confused with what is out now. It is 1.0, the very first release of Final Fantasy 14. Has to be the worst one because the company literally apologized for it. You can't play it. It's like the only one you cannot play. I think you can play 11. We were trying to talk about earlier. Can't play it. It's gone. The company apologized for it, and it almost bankrupted the company. So like, I think you have to say bottom.
Fair point. Hard to argue that the
next, like how you had it, 11 is just basically like an NA. We haven't gotten the chance to play it, and that's part of it is the inaccessibility with it. The reason, having to have that thing on your PS2, I don't even remember what it was, so young when it came out, and just still all these years later.
Network adapter or something like that.
Right.
I forget what it was.
And now it's just kind of in the wash where it's like if you're going to play an MMO Final Fantasy, you're going to play 14.
Right.
So
it's hard to go back into that.
Hard to go back to 11, yeah. Then the next one, so we have, next one, 15 for obvious reasons. Bottom of the barrel.
Same as kind of how I was discussing.
Same thing. We could go on and on about all the stuff, and then even the background of it. Again, it's almost tied into like 14 1.0, almost bankrupting the company because it takes so long to come out. So even gameplay aside, game outside. How it affecting the company.
The other one to be interesting about that one is that you didn't even get to play it until real recently when it was completely revamped.
It was the Royal Edition, the downloadable content. So my take on it is even better than first coming out. They fixed a lot of issues. You can play as every character. Little background information and the downloadable content. You can make it so you don't kill yourself
with the magic like in the original, where I didn't know that and I did Fire Aga and killed my entire party.
So even with fixes, updates, still the bottom of the barrel.
Just a disappointment.
I will throw in. I have 3 positive notes on it.
Okay.
I mean, we were talking about not being totally negative, right? Nobody wants to dispatch and match. So 3 positive notes at 15. Okay. Even on the bottom of it, the exploring. I mean, top notch. Oh yeah, you can kill dozens of hours just riding around in the regalia. So they did a good job. Graphics, those are going to hold up for another 10, 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're
when
hard
I'm recently playing it again, and it's like I would have guessed it came out this year. It still is fantastic.
6 years old? No, 7. Right, 16 I think came out. So I mean, amazing
pretty old
graphics, and
it's hard to beat that.
I was almost going to say financially. It probably did sell a decent amount of units, make some money, but again, tying back into how long it came out or take to come out. That the amount of money I think is just like null and void. It doesn't matter how much money because it should have 10 years ago made that amount of money.
The iterations they had to go through with it versus 13,
no matter how much it sold, it still costed them more money.
I believe it started on the PS3, the original project,
think so, yeah.
And took the entire life of PS4 before it even then became PS5 and completely revamped. I don't even think it's the same game as Versus 13. So like your point, how many times this game was reiterated?
You can't even say financially like success.
There's no way that.
So I was like, oh, what's another thing it did? I think it probably does a good job of getting new people to play it, a new fan base.
Yes.
For better or for worse.
It was part of their goal, to be fair.
So I think they did do that, which, maybe alienated us hardcore, Final Fantasy fans a little bit, but...
I think that was part of it.
It's something, you can't win them all. But, so that's 15. So now we're getting to, let's see, we got in my, 13th spot. I have Final Fantasy 2. That one I maybe have beaten once. And I think a lot of people could probably agree. Just the
I think
mechanics,
I have it way higher than most people would.
I'll give it its fair shake, and its story is actually really well. I think we were talking about this a little bit ago.
That's what I had. Yep.
Just you can't argue the mechanics sound good on paper and then just fall short a little bit. So
you really have to like
that one
purposely fake the mechanics, attacking yourself and killing and breaking.
Otherwise,
the
I mean, like the villain,
awesome idea,
story, characters, the guests coming in and out, starting to really solidify some Final Fantasy themes, but it's still just the replay factor and stuff like that falls short with the mechanics and everything.
Yeah.
Let's see. Then I got the next spot, Final Fantasy 3. Pretty much, I think you almost had it in a similar spot.
I had 3 at 12.
Yep, that's about what I got. So same thing. I mean, we didn't even get it, I think, in the U.S. till the 3DS version.
Yes.
So we
I want to say like 2006 or something.
Yeah.
And originally came out in 89?
It wasn't even 90.
I forget exactly. I forget the dates exactly.
Yeah.
Should have researched it a little bit more, but
it's our first episode.
Basically, it took them dang near 15, 20 years before America even got it. So that's got to be saying something.
And with the job system, one big takeaway, I remember when you changed jobs, you were like weakened for a couple battles. So it almost discouraged changing your jobs.
Yeah.
Story, very Final Fantasy classic, the crystals, but maybe a little lackluster.
Yeah.
And so then that's kind of where that one's at. Next one is 5. It definitely bettered, if not perfected, the job system setup in like 3.
I had 5 even lower just because I don't even remember.
I would say the story for me was maybe a bit better. It's getting into the kind of the dimensional, the rift, like in the void. It's kind of it's literally Final Fantasy 3 but improved. Like
I guess
3's talking about the void with Cloud of Darkness. 5's got like X Death, the void, the other like dimensions. Like it's the job systems is just better. You're not discouraged from changing jobs or anything like that.
You do actually have a main character at this point. You do actually have a name.
Yes.
Name. Yeah. Unlike Onion Knight. You know, we didn't get a name Lunith until we got the 3DS.
Yeah. So yeah.
Even at that point, anytime they do an iteration of them in the city or something, they call them Onion Knight. It's
so
like,
right.
Same as Warrior of Light. You don't have a main character. You don't have these characters, and there's no development in 3.
That's a good one.
I guess to be fair,
5 like has some development and like some character arcs. A character dies. Spoiler alert.
Obviously, we should have said that from the beginning.
Yes.
Obviously, spoiler alerts on these. We're kind of assuming that everybody watching this
has played
these, and most of these that we're talking about are obviously old games. You haven't played in 30 years.
Again, we're just talking about 15 is the most recent one on the list, and that's 6-7 years
Maybe
old.
The one we won't try to talk about because I haven't played through is 14's ending.
Yes, I'll hold back
don't
on that.
Don't ruin it for me. I will get to it eventually.
You still have to play it, yeah.
3 kids makes it very difficult to get through a 200, 300 hour game.
Right, yeah. So then the next spot, like around number 10, so starting from the bottom up, we have Final Fantasy 1. Just classic, pretty much all around. Right. You can kind of just middle ground it. It's not outstanding. It's not bad. It's pretty short. You can play it. Still a little tough because it's kind of like still a little bit of the older games. But yeah, again, you don't have like the main character. Villain's pretty good, but its overall story again, just middle ground. Very just
first
still
one,
good.
so it's still missing a lot of the Final Fantasy factors.
Hasn't come into play yet.
An awesome base. Of what a Final Fantasy feels and plays like.
Absolutely. Right. You're right. Next spot, I got 12. For me, was I've given it a little bit better of a shake nowadays. I think I have 12, probably a little bit lower than you. It's still just like a little disappointed when it came out with having the world of Ivalice. I just really felt like, wait a minute, I've seen this before. Final Fantasy Tactics, this is already a world. And every other Final Fantasy is its own unique world and setting and place. This is the only one that's from another game.
Yeah.
And it took it from a spin-off game, so I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know, that I have come around a lot more to that idea because if you dig a little deeper, they are connected. It is the same Ivalice, one's supposed to take place. So that's actually really cool. I really enjoyed that.
I always took it as like Final Fantasy Tactics was so good that they were like, maybe it should be a
It's
main
main.
title, and they
Yeah.
were like, let's make one. Maybe
Right.
we'll do 12,
So-
and make the world so that tactics can be kind of in that category.
Yeah, so yeah, if you look at it in
Honorable
that light,
mention, tactics, fantastic game,
Absolutely,
but we're talking
yeah.
just the main ones.
yeah, right, yeah, that may be its own segment off
That would be-
spin-off titles.
I think
yeah.
that would be pretty dang high on mine.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough to beat, right? But yes, 12. Where are my notes here? I got a couple of them. Let me check them here. Main character, probably one of the worst main characters if you
Yeah.
call Vaughn the main character.
I think in my notes,
That
I'm
is-
curious as
that
to
might have
why,
to be the lowest ranking main
Because
character.
I rated every single game.
And
I
not
rated
only
the
that,
details,
it
so.
then it bounces around. Is it Balthier? Is it Ash? An argument
Right?
could be made for
Who-
Bosch. It
Who
really
is the main
yeah,
character?
maybe that's what they were going for, but either way, we've talked about this before. You could take out
Yeah, I think
Vaughn,
C.
even
I
Pinello,
think is
and
what I gave him.
and the
Just-
story would still go. And if you
Yeah,
just minus
Vaughn
Vaughn
and
from
Pinello
there,
are just along for the ride.
yep.
And
The
yeah, he's just
also the villain for me. I remember again come around a lot more to most of these ideas.
yeah.
But after like the recent playthrough, but again, the villain, it was, you know who the villain is the whole game, so that's kind of cool. But he just didn't seem like evil. It just felt two countries were at war, and depending how you view it, one guy's good, one side's bad. And it wasn't the whole world's involved. It just felt two countries at war was the story.
Yeah,
And
you don't get the Sephiroth, the Kuja, the Kefka feel. with
Yes,
the villain.
that's just-
when Vayne shows up, it's not that like boom, 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 shh. You know,
Yeah,
that, like
we talk about the
eerie.
themes,
Your
yeah.
hair is standing up on your arm. You know, like who is this guy? You're just like, who's this guy? You know,
And-
don't get that terrified. Like,
and almost replaying it again, I'm like, I almost agree with this guy. He keeps talking about the history
that's
of
the
man that needs to be in the hands of man, not these gods. And you're like, yeah, I agree. Yeah.
fair point.
But I guess you're going at about it a different way. I don't know.
Probably shouldn't be killing so many people. Just
Yeah, maybe, yeah. And a little personal thing for me, when it first came out, this was like the first, I think, and really only one. We
Yeah.
played through with the guide, the
Yes.
first playthrough. Had the guide, came out, got the guide, got the game,
Made it
and
so
everything we
easy.
played through, page by page, we're going through the game with the guide. So no bosses were a surprise, no places were a surprise.
Yeah.
I think that does factor in.
We learned our lesson on that one.
We
really
going
ruined
forward, we then with 13 comes out.
it. Buy the guide, but
we-
first playthrough, don't use the guide.
That's what we did.
Highly
what we kind of
recommend
learned.
that.
So 12, I think,
really
gets a little
was.
just bad rap personally for me. Going through and playing the like Zodiac Age story, I think it's a lot better for me. But there's just a couple of things I placed it a little lower.
See the camera blinking. I'm going to take a second here to make sure that we are
Edit
still...
stuff.
Okay, we're still recording. We're good.
Good.
Just want to take a little pause. We're figuring out some of the kinks in this new one. But anyways, so continue. So 12 was at... Which number are we at now?
So number 9, I had a total of 16 actually, because I actually have 14 technically twice.
Got you. Okay. Fair.
Get to that in a little bit here. So 9th place from the bottom up, Final Fantasy 12. Now we're going to, let's see, 8th place, I have Final Fantasy 6.
Okay.
A couple of years ago, would probably put that one a little bit lower. An argument I know a lot of people would argue at a higher spot probably
Yeah.
for it.
Anybody born a little
I
bit
need-
before us probably
I
would
need
argue.
to give it another playthrough. I actually have not even beaten it, so that's a little bugaboo on my end. I got stuck
That's
when
4
the
for
world.
me. I've not beat 4. I've tried it like 4 times.
Yes.
I always get stuck.
I got
Anyway.
stuck. The world ends, and you're Celise, and I didn't use her. This was back in the day when we,
Yeah.
little younger, we always had our main party. We always figured out who we were going to play as before we started.
Didn't care if it
And
really
now when we
leveled
play,
or-
it's like, no, you got to use everybody. It's part of the game. So didn't use her, so it's just getting one shot on the world map, and was like,
that part is tough.
I'm done.
Yeah, that part. First time
So-
I got stuck first time. I had to play through the second time.
6 gets another bad rep for me,
Year or so
unfairly.
ago, I think I replayed it and got to that part, and then finally used the guide to figure out how to get all the other characters.
Right,
and
in
realized
that
that
spot, yeah.
that part's really good. That's kind of the typical endpoint of Final Fantasy, where you do everything, all these open
Yeah.
side quest stuff before you fight the final boss.
Absolutely.
So
But so yeah, for me, it's got to be a little bit lower. I got to go back, play through it.
Unalaska, shout out Unalaska. I know that's your absolute favorite, but
I will give it another playthrough, and I most likely will bump it up. But yes, agreed.
We're
just
a little too young
for it. It
yes, was after our time.
But I mean, another thing that's
solid though
can be a little. With 6, there's a couple other things like the main character. Is it Tara? Is it Locke?
Yes. Again, does the same thing with like
there's a couple other things. That might be like the biggest thing. Why I might
you don't have her like.
Why I still might put 4, the next one on the list, 4 above it, at the next spot, because of just like a little things like that. Even giving it a fair shake if I haven't like played and finished it. Again, no 6. It's hard to top Kefka. I know we have come around to understand that he is actually in an argument for. Top villain, because he wins. He is still one of the one, if not the only one to win.
I mean, technically, Arden kind of wins in 15 in a stupid way. Later comes
right, but Kefka still does it. So, but for me,
open this crystal
again. The bad shake. 6 gets not beating it. 4, I mean, is as far as like the earlier 1 through like 6 go, really top notch.
Yes, absolutely. Really hammered home the story aspect of Final Fantasy.
Yes, still getting the classic Crystal story, but still getting it's not as just like with Final Fantasy 3, it's just plain, if you will. It's a lot more to it.
We're now getting into these are all solid. There's too many that solid. That's
they're all we're getting into
the game. It sounds low on the list, but there has to be a little bit lower, right? Like
so I mean, just the characters and like how they come and go. You're starting to. It's like a mature story. People are starting to die. You don't have this like plot armor almost. I mean, cast story. It's still a classic. For me, it's one that as far as one of the earlier ones going, we're kind of touched on based. I haven't beaten or a lot of them. This was one I've gotten to the very end. Couldn't beat the final boss, but still
haven't beat him either.
Yeah, I think that was one I was like, I just got to go grind for a couple hours. I don't feel like doing that. I beat the game. I mean, I just got to beat the boss. But 4 is like personally one of my favorites too. So like it's like a little just personal bump. Character arcs too. I was just thinking about this earlier of, like Cecil is one of the top ones going from the Dark Knight to the Paladin.
Yes, that's true.
A great main character,
really
great villain,
character
arc. You got your set jobs. You got, there's a lot of praises to say about 4, and only negatives. I haven't beaten it. That's one of the only ones.
Sometimes
I can say
it's really
about.
hard for us sometimes too, because we grew up that the very first one we already played 7 on PlayStation before we played any of the Super Nintendo and Nintendo versions.
Yeah, so
which. God, that's just such a jump back. Graphics and feel
makes it
a
little bit harder for us. Yeah,
and so I kind of get to if there's a younger generation watching now where they would put 15 high, because it might be the same thing to go back and play 7 now,
8, 9 for them,
and it's like clunky to them. Like, God, that's just so bad at graphics. And we're like, but it's so good.
But the story, you guys see through.
Yeah,
It's
kind of us, I guess, with that first 6 generation.
Absolutely,
There's some that were great, but just hard to top this.
So we are a little biased,
yes,
but
a little bit. But to be super frank, we don't care.
Yeah. And the whole point also, we may have not said at the beginning, is just we're here to, make you talk about Final Fantasy. This is not
love it.
Hey, creators, this is your list. This is the list of this is just our list.
Our personal. Everybody's is different.
We're gonna ask you what yours is. Yeah. Let us know in the comments.
Love to hear everybody's.
So
love to discuss it more.
That's all just.
We just love talking Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it's all just fun about talking about Final Fantasy
and games and everything.
So next spot we have 6th, going from bottom up, Final Fantasy 14, Realm Reborn to Endwalker. You can almost do it by expansion,
right?
But I figured.
You should almost do that as a separate one too. 14 could be another whole.
Could be a whole nother episode. Yep. So just in the entirety of the Realm Reborn 2.0 to current date, Final Fantasy 14. I got that at the 6th spot. We talked about it earlier. The length. Realm Reborn is pretty good. And honestly, the expansions just pretty much climb up from there. but the amount of time, the hundreds of
Yes,
hours,
yes.
literally,
My main
that
point
you
for
are
that
going to
one
take.
is that it's like, even everybody says that it gets so good after
Right.
Stormblood. But for me, it was like, but I have to go through like 200-300 hours of gameplay for it to get to that really good.
Yes.
That there's no way it's going to be that good that it tops those. Was my hard part. Why I couldn't
Absolutely.
put 14 any higher.
Yeah, and same here. I think if I look at Shadowbringers to Endwalker's
parts,
story and a lot of other stuff, I would bump it up a couple notches, a couple places here. But looking in the entirety of it,
God, there's some parts in Realm Reborn though where you're like,
Realm Reborn is a little rough.
So long doing all these quests and you're running and doing this and getting this for that person and the fetch quests.
Heavensward gets
like
a lot better.
Days. I'm playing this thing for days and I'm like,
Yes.
there's no more aspect of I don't even remember the names.
I
almost called them the Asgardians.
The
Asgardians.
Asians, yeah.
Asians. Those guys, like, you don't see them for like long periods of time.
The pacing is an issue of 14.
I love
That's
them. I love the idea of it and bringing the summons, and I loved playing a summoner, and that was actually part of that story. So good. But it's it's almost like an anime show where there's like the random filler arcs.
It is like
that.
That is what it is.
And
yeah.
Like, just take out the filler arcs and put it into a 20 hours of that, and it would be fantastic.
It is one like.
Anyways,
you got to kind of put into context. Like sometimes we say the earlier ones when they came out. It's hard to look back at them now, but when they came out, they were just milestones. You got to look at where 14 came from. It was just a complete failure. And even a Realm Reborn isn't perfect, but it's just worlds better than 1.0. Yeah. So they fixed it. They did such a good job of not alienating the fans of the original. There were fans. There were people that played it. Not alienating them.
Bit of it. It just
not alienating them and continue and writing it so they didn't just like all their hard work was just gone. It was they continued the story. So amazing story, rough around the edges. Heavensward's really, I mean, Final Fantasy and Dragons. I mean, you cannot get much better than that. That's again, pacing still like some issues.
And fight scenes of the story
of those were just like
my favorite of 14 so far.
So it's like
I could rewatch.
It has its moments where it jumps up.
Some of those last dragon fights,
great,
fantastic.
Stormblood was really right. Stormblood was really good too. It just set up everything. So
that's
it's
what
hard. I keep saying this.
Yeah, it's hard for me because it was hard to get through that one. It was like, how do you beat dragons?
Stormblood
dragons
to just like almost this back to the story of like 12, where it's just like two countries at war kind of type thing, and you're like,
it was so
is this
much
the
like
big story that
you
it was
spent the entire thing gathering your army essentially.
Yes, that's basically what you're doing.
I do like the villain. Again, I'm horrible with names.
Yeah.
And 14 does not help my
the names,
the names are not easy to remember. I need Cloud. That's easy to remember.
Not Harshaphant.
Yeah, I can't even say half of them. I can't even tell you. I just played it a year ago, and I still don't even remember half their names.
I'm going to probably butcher it. What is it?
Like, what is these villains?
He's the U.
That's the problem.
Yeah, the U name. That's not Ulrich. It's
We're gonna get so much crap in the crowd.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry. Urianger.
Yes,
Urianger. You reading that, you're never gonna get that. You have to hear it. Yeah.
Oh God, could you imagine playing that back with we're our younger selves trying to read these names?
Urianger. Yeah, right. Yeah. But I mean, but then Shadowbringers and Endwalker. Story-wise, it is just great. Like, it really is worth going through all of that. They set up so much stuff and circle back to so much stuff, and it's outstanding. It really is.
It is fun. I can't say too much bad about it though. So much fun playing with friends and family.
Oh yes, and the whole draw of the MMO.
Yeah,
again, can bump it up.
Having the night with the cousins and shout out Chad Tony. That was a lot of fun night.
Yeah.
A lot of fun that night. And just having Tony skip the scenes and just pissing us off.
Yes. So even with skipping scenes, it still takes a long time. As we've seen our cousin Tony literally skipped every scene and still takes time to go through.
Yeah.
But, a lot of love for 14. Argument to be made. bumping it up. But if you're looking at the whole big thing, a little bit tougher. Getting back to, I'm going to finish the list soon. We promise. Next spot, number 5. We're getting to the top 5 now.
Okay.
Final Fantasy VIII. I got that kind of on the lower of the top end.
Where did I put it?
Mainly, I think
that's funny. That's exactly where I put it. 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put it at 5 as well. And that's just replaying it too. I just replayed it. God,
mine's not. I haven't played it horribly long ago. Just you can't argue with the kind of the faultiness of the junction magic and drawing system. We've gone over and over.
Yes.
You never want to use magic because then you're taking away from your stock, which is your stats.
Yeah.
You probably have this magic junction, and now you don't want to use it. So it kind of just takes away from it.
Breaks it so easy.
A little bit how we would play it back in the day. You could say pacing is very slow because how we played it. Second you see a new magic, instantly draw it to 100.
You need 100.
You need 100 of it right away.
Right?
Gotta be the strongest.
You take that 20 minutes in that boss fight.
Yes.
Make sure you're
drawing 4 or 5 at a time. You gotta get 100 doubles.
So
a little bit
then
like
it kind of
slower,
breaks it
but
though. That's also part of the problem.
And that was
then
you
become too strong.
An argument
easily.
I think could be said for like what might be the easiest like Final Fantasy to break. If you want to say it, I think 8. You can get ultimate weapons before the end of the first disc in some crazy weird.
Yeah. I was just watching
card mod and
I was just watching
the cards
a
you
small
can
video. I don't even remember what it was from, and he was explaining how like before you even do the Dalit mission, you can get like max stats almost. Like
technically, yeah,
because like you can. I missed what item he was talking about. There's an item though that somehow you can get. You can sell it for a good amount of gil, and then buy a ridiculous amount of tents, which then you can refine into like, a ridiculous amount of kiragas,
which then you can maybe even start to.
Then you junction into your health, and you're like almost maxed.
So that and then it's because it's crazy because then you could like
leveling too.
Change kiragas probably to like stones, and then change those into other agas or something. It gets really broken.
The card concept too, and the modding those early on. The fact that you only have 1,000 every single time to level. And so there's no exponential level. Your level is the same. And you can fight those fish guys on the beach at the beginning.
You're talking about
fight 3 of them, and you get like 300, 400 almost experience of battle. So that's really not that much when you're only getting 1,000.
So again,
you can easily level.
It reminds me of Final Fantasy 2, some of the systems mechanics where good on paper necessarily, but just didn't quite get executed rightly, or just didn't end up quite working. Where and Ace got a couple experimental things they tried. The 1,000 experience for every single level. Like, okay, this way you won't have to like grind or whatever their thought process. And then it just doesn't kind of work. Squall's like 20 levels ahead of everybody throughout the whole game.
Yes.
Then you take away the grinding or and such. The junction, the magic, the drawing. I was gonna say another thing with 8.
That's really the main thing that I
experience.
Other than that, though,
but then Squall's one of the top main characters.
I think he's probably my second.
Shout out to 8 for I think they did a cool job with Laguna and you playing as him. Yeah. The concept of playing splitting up. We've talked about this where your party splits up at parts in Final Fantasies. And you get to play as one side and then the other side, or at least see what the other party is doing. 8 takes it a little bit different. Not only do you have parts like that, but then you're actually, when you finally figure out playing the past, as Laguna.
3/4 of the game, you don't know. You don't know who this guy is. So you're almost playing 2 stories.
Yes,
throughout the whole
game. And I think that's very cool. That's very unique. It could have used a little bit more in the end. It could have used a little bit more when you get to play Laguna. Yes. The first time you play Laguna, you're like, "What is going on? This is awesome."
Cool if he got in the party even at the end.
At the end, that would have been a cool thing. So I do love that in 8 how you get to play as this almost whole other party, and then you slowly learn how that party is actually connected to the story. So I would love to see that in another Final Fantasy going forward.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a cool concept and idea.
Love it.
But the couple experimental ideas that they've tried, just make it a little. That's why it's not number one. Yes.
That and the rest of the cast is.
Yeah, there's a couple of characters. Yeah, they've grown on me. Right. Quistis has grown on me a little bit. Selphie.
Younger me hated Quistis.
Hated him.
I still don't really love Selphie, but Quistis. The older me starts to appreciate the
sexy teacher vibe.
Yeah. So much, so much more.
Even though she's like 19, right? She's only like a year older.
Yeah. For some reason, replaying it this last time was like, why did I think Renault was
Why is
better?
she? And they start to realize you're like,
Renault's kind of
Squall
annoying.
Squall is right. Renault's a little annoying. So then the next one, number 4, I have 13. A little bit higher up on the list. Some people might throw it a lot farther down.
Yeah.
I've said this before, and I'm going to say this probably a lot more in this podcast. I will die on
we
the
are
hill.
the exact same right now.
Yeah. Shocker that
I think
our
the
lists
top
are
5
very
probably the same.
similar. Yeah.
Lowers
But
were
the
lower.
hill I'm going to die on is 13 is a better Final Fantasy than 15.
Absolutely.
I have read random Reddits and blog posts, and people are arguing 15 is better. No way.
I don't
There's
understand
no way.
the hate for 13.
The most recent, like the
God, I
last
love the
playthrough, I get a lot, taking kind of the nostalgic goggles off.
Yes.
I see a lot of what people are talking about, what I've read of the problems. I do see it, but for me, it's still amazing. Personally, because of it was one that we were waiting for so long.
Yes.
We're finally at this age where we loved Final Fantasy. We were waiting for the next ones to come out.
Yes.
We were reading
had a
about
long
it.
wait for that
long
one.
wait for it, so excitement was building. We went to a
gotta
midnight
mention- yeah,
release.
I was gonna say we gotta mention this.
This is
part.
like the one and only one, so no
So
matter
excited.
what, it's
Midnight
special in our
release. We
hearts.
stayed up. I went and bought so many frozen pizzas and so
Mountain
much
Dew.
Mountain Dew game fuel. We
Game
stayed
fuel,
up for
shout
like
out Game
36
Fuel.
hours straight,
Just
trading off like every 2 hours playing because we only had the one system. Obviously,
Yes,
we were
yeah.
a little bit younger at the time. We literally dropped out of school to play this game.
dude,
Like,
oh my
not
god,
even
we did.
joking. I dropped out of high school pretty much
yeah,
to play this.
shout out Final Fantasy 13 being two.
We were so badly addicted.
Yeah, honestly.
Our dad had to hide our PS3.
Oh my god, he did.
I still don't know to this day where he hid it. I looked forever for it. I
Yeah,
don't know where he hid this
absolutely.
thing. But there was one point he was so mad at us because we would stay up till like 3 o'clock every night and then
Missing school and
being
stuff.
loud,
Yep.
talking, and obviously missing
Missing
school.
school.
So mad at us for it.
So
That he literally took this game away from it in the PS3.
Yeah.
So,
so
like
that just
that just shows
outstanding.
how good it was for us. Loved the game. Could not put it down.
Yes. So I mean,
The replay factor.
personally, yeah, that hype for a lot of personal reasons. But I cannot deny, after the replaying the replaying it and seeing the linearity of it.
Yeah.
And we've talked about not only the linearity.
That's why I put that as a category.
Yes, it's not only just all you can do is A to B. It's again A to B is one path.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
the
even
maps.
hey, you go from these plains to the town and you can't backtrack. But
Yeah.
at least the plains are an open area. No, it really is
Yeah.
narrow
Like
hallways.
10 is linear. The maps are
Yes.
kind of that way, but there's a lot of times where there's a little bit of a break off in this and that. Mm-hmm. But they make it so obvious where
Again,
any
like we
treasure
said,
box is going to be in 13.
It's one off path. Yes. So that, after
Same thing. The other part too is that like I liked the concept a little bit of you don't have the random encounters, but you kind of have them. But now the monsters are there. But that almost made it more linear because it's the same monsters.
you
on
are
the path.
getting into like two or
kinda
three
random.
fights
Yeah.
in this area,
Yeah.
right? You
You're
can't.
like,
There's no.
where's the rare guy? He's in this one spot. Then
Yeah.
you find him, and you're like, now you can break that by just running to that spot.
Yeah, right, running
You don't
in
have
and
to do the
out.
back and forth
Yes.
waiting. And you're like, where is this Malboro that I need to capture in this calm lands?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Like. So
You
whether
know where
it's
he is.
frustrating or not, yeah, it's like they
So-
make it easier maybe, but at the same time,
yes.
a little bit of that the
Okay,
longevity is
Take
lost.
a little
And
test, make sure we are still good to go.
good. The
40 minutes.
lack
or so.
of a big turning point for me. I was still, even this last playthrough of 13, I was still like probably top 3.
Yeah.
But I finally had to bite the bullet and acknowledge its problems at this point. When you get to Pulse, and ironically, it actually opens up. Finally.
Finally.
So you're thinking, oh great, it fixed
You're like
its only problem.
3/4 of the way through the story.
You're
by
at
this
solid
point.
30, 40 hours in. You get to use your whole party. Great. You think it's only good from the best part of 13 is the story and the
Yes.
driving force of it.
That was it.
It kept you just
Loved it.
boom, boom, boom going. You're on a time
So
crunch. You
dramatic.
don't want to turn
So-
into
yeah.
a Seath. You're on this constant time
It made you
crunch.
feel like you had to play through the game fast. 'cause you
Yeah,
were like,
so that's
through all this.
for us. The first playthrough, we did not care a damn about linearity. We
No.
were just
I want
balls to the walls. Like, no, we
how
shouldn't
does
be
this
messing
end?
around in a town because we don't have time. So it makes sense. And that's where my biggest argument for the linearity for the longest time was, it makes sense. Story-wise, it makes sense.
But then it takes away from the replay value.
Then, so the moment then when that all turns, when the game opens up on Pulse, the story comes to a complete screeching halt.
Yeah.
There is no story. There's nothing, not only just for a little bit. And even if you don't do side stuff finally that appear, if you go A to B, it's still like over 10 hours of like no advancement of story.
Yeah.
And then at that point I was just like, and then it's almost like the end of the game. Then it kind of just like wraps up.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
I
still have some questions. I still like don't quite know what happened
here. You're kind of at like a wandering, we don't know what to do with ourselves at this point.
Yeah, on like Pulse,
you're kicked really out of Cocoon now. We landed in Pulse.
Don't have a way of
not
getting
what we thought, what
back.
What Neil and Fang are remembering it to be, and so you're just kind of this confused, wandering Pulse, aimlessly almost, until you finally get to Erba, and then finally it starts to kick back in.
Yes.
But like you're saying, just like you can play for like 10 to 15 hours, I think,
and not even the
side stuff, and
then even
and you're like
the story, another 10 hours to get into there.
Really is advancing.
So
where you've been fed just like boom, boom, boom
this
for
great narrative,
20 plus hours of this story.
Because they get the story top tier.
Needed to
battle system.
Up a little bit more,
a little bit better. There should have been, again, spoilers. We're assuming everybody's played this. When you get to Pulse, there should have been some people. It shouldn't have just been Baron. And then some people, and then you would slowly start to learn, like, oh, everything we've learned is a lie, and then like just still slowly propelling the story forward.
Something.
Right? They had to give you something. It just flips its script, and it just
have a map like Pulse, but a little bit sooner on Cocoon.
Yes, and that brings me to another a point too of the kind of the Final Fantasy factor, your airship. You get to the point in the end of the game, you go do everything. The farthest back you go to is that area in Pulse. You cannot go back to the first 40 hours of the game. So I mean, you get that
there's always,
with the story kind of dropping off with the linearity, and it is hard to.
Our favorite ones, the favorite aspects we have of Final Fantasies is being able to do that. You get to that point in the game, and
it's always the point.
There's always these things that you go back to the old ones that you missed throughout the story. There's always like, oh, there was a treasure box. That's right. I couldn't get to that. Now I can get to it. Now I have a access to it. There's an extra side quest I have to do.
Right.
To get this awesome item for it. You don't have that.
Yeah.
In 13.
And almost the replay value of it is then now you know, like at the end of the game, you got the airship to go back and get everything. And then you're kind of like, could I get this earlier or not? You know?
Right.
There's always that thing. So 13, there's just you feel a little cheated when you don't.
It's
hard. What other Final Fantasy do you not go back to the beginning?
I put it story and gameplay was so much fun.
Story, battle, music are
put
like
it higher,
top tier.
Yeah, than a couple of these upper ones. Mm-hmm. But then those things it was hard to get over those. So that brings it down.
I can definitely see the argument to be made.
We're a little more forgiving on those, I think, than a lot of Final Fantasy fans. Maybe some of the originals that were just you start and you go, well, there's everything to do. So
we've said a lot, that we're story people, right?
Yes.
So we play these games, obviously RPGs for the story. So if the story is good,
we can forgive some.
You can forgive some stuff, but shout out 15 when the story isn't good. Even if there are some good things, it's
3 hours
I
later.
don't really care to play it again because like the story, like
we're
whatever.
Gonna make a movie, but then we're not gonna incorporate hardly any of the story of the movie into the game. Yeah.
So all right, so we're getting close. Top 3 here. Yeah. Actually differs, I think, just as... No, actually, no, this one's the same, I think. Final Fantasy 9 and number 3.
I had 9 at 2.
Oh, okay.
I think so these two we flip-flopped, I think.
Yes, a little bit here. 9... these top 3 are very wishy-washy.
It's so hard.
If I wake up a certain day of the week, I think I could flip-flop any 3 of these ratings. It's very hard. 9 gets a huge personal boost for me because that was I think the first one I remember playing. Came out 99, so I was only 3 years old. But that's so maybe I did play 7 or 8 with you guys a little bit, but the one I really actually remember playing.
I remember you getting to that.
Shout out our cousin Chad. He would run around for me and I would do the battles, and
Yeah.
that was 9. That was Final Fantasy 9. I can remember that. So,
Yeah.
as old as your kid now, as old as nephew Aries is,
Yeah.
that age playing Final
It's
Fantasy
always
9.
hard to.
And
I didn't put nostalgia as a category. I almost should have because it did.
it
change
plays a little bit into us.
These
yeah.
top ones, that was kind of what notched some of these
And
things.
9, I can remember 2 big memories for me. The first, blank on the black waltzes.
Yes.
The first guy you fight in the ice cavern.
Yes.
And I didn't know. I was so young, I didn't know.
Good.
Attack was XX. You press X twice. That's just how you attack. You have to go and attack the black waltz. It auto targets the dragon.
Yeah.
But if he keeps healing him, you have to target the other guy. And I was so young, I didn't get that concept.
Yeah.
You, Chad, George,
Yeah.
they're all like, no, press X. No, not twice, not twice.
Part of it was like letting you learn.
Figure it out,
Like we
yes.
didn't want to just tell you what to do. That wasn't as fun.
I
It was
remember.
like, you gotta figure
I
this
can
out,
remember
right?
getting mad. I can
You'd be
remember
like,
getting frustrated. You guys were like, "No, you see the hand?
So
you gotta
many
move the
iconic
hand."
boss battles, though. Every one of
9,
those black
yeah.
waltzes were so good.
And then-
Gizmaluke's grotto.
Oh, yeah.
so good.
Right.
God, that's where for me 9 bumped it up. It was like once I did these categories and categorized it out.
You did
that's
break
where I
down
was
it
like,
a bit more. Yeah,
Okay, 9 is like
is just like the
there's
fundamentally
nothing
amazing.
I can say badly about it.
Yeah.
I love every.
That's kind of
aspect, pretty
right.
much.
And then I remember getting
don't know,
stuck
like-
at the troll guy in the second disc.
Yeah, I
I
remember
was
that one.
too
for sure.
slow to just go down to magic, cure.
Yeah, because he hits you with
he would
that like
hit you-
earthquake, and if you don't
I
know
was
to
so-
do float at the time, which you obviously didn't know. I mean,
Yeah.
now we know breaking the game, you can get the
item. I think
Germanos or whatever. Germanos, I don't know how to say it.
right. The
Flame me for that later. But
boots,
the
yeah.
boots that give you the auto float, then his moves do nothing.
And
But
that's
it would
just-
like almost wipe you if you don't.
and just being young and slow and
Yeah.
trying to heal all. I wasn't fast enough, and I
Not even being able to
So I
read,
just got
probably.
these core memories of 9. Just
Guy doesn't
and
count,
it
can't
is
read.
obviously just the best of all the early Final Fantasies together.
Yes.
So like you
Every
said,
aspect.
you really can't say anything bad about it.
Yeah.
The only reason it's at where it's at is because the next 2 are, just, a
Yeah,
little bit
just
better.
that,
Like there's
yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
9, if I really tried
just
to,
said, yeah.
the Final Fantasy factor, the choke, it's got one of the best chocobo mini
Yes.
games.
Hands down. So much fun.
Just the story.
7's is a
The
little
progress. Oh, what did I have
Actually,
here? I got.
actually, I think I might like 9's Chocobos a little better than 7.
I think just not
game is
quite of
just
a
so much fun.
unique story as the next 2 on the list. But then it's
True.
like, as I'm saying that, this went over my head for many years playing. Not until like my last playthrough. I think I was just kind of reading like a summary of some Final Fantasies. I didn't feel like playing them, but I just wanted to like read them. Like what's a summary online real quick. And also I was like reading 9's, and I was like, wait, Terra is a different planet. They're aliens. Like that never really clicked.
Yeah.
That it's like, whoa. So there's
Didn't
actually
quite
this,
understand what
there's
Zidane
actually this
really is.
Yeah, there's actually this big part. That whole part where
The other
there's
thing I think we said Zidane for like
oh yeah,
10 years until
Zidane
Dissidia came out, and they were like
was
Zidane.
We're like, oh,
Oh.
Titus.
And Titus, yeah, still hard to call him Titus.
Yeah, that's still
Still want to say Titus.
Yep.
Let us know which one it is.
Yeah,
in
right.
the
Yeah.
comments.
But I mean,
Titus or Titus. That's
with 9 opening up the
age-old
story of like Terra, aliens, Zidane's like a god of destruction or death, and it's like this.
Yeah.
That's like a completely different narrative. So it gets like really good with
so good. You
So
can't
as
get
I
over
say-
the Super Saiyan trance factor.
Oh
that he
yeah,
is. He's
like
basically
shout out Dragon Ball Z.
Goku.
He's got a tail. I think we
Tail,
talked about this.
yes.
There's a Dragon Ball Z factor.
Yes.
It's hard to top.
yeah,
Yeah.
loses his memory. Like it literally is like Dragon Ball Z story. Hard to top
If
it.
Kakarot
Every-
fell into Final
yeah.
Fantasy,
When
we're
I
all like,
categorized it out, it was like it hit every single mark.
Yeah.
Everything about it. The battle system, the equipment. That was a big one we haven't been talking about. Like,
customization.
the customization,
is
the amount of
huge.
equipment is a perfect amount.
Yep.
You
The amount
get
of
a certain, you don't just get your weapon and an armor piece, which is 13's problem a little bit.
A little bit of
10
that, yeah.
was also for me another
Yes.
little aspect that it's like I loved how you have your weapon, your head, your armor, your boots, and an accessory. I think is all of them.
Yep.
It's not overwhelming.
Just
It's
en-
just enough.
And then how you kind of learn
Those abilities from there.
them,
You have
and you
your
can
own-
equip a certain amount.
Yes.
Yeah. So it
Just
does a great job.
every
I'm
aspect
really
of it. I love
trying
the cast.
to rack my brain of a negative, and I think like off the top of my head, the only negative is like the super boss, Ozma.
Yeah.
For like it was just not even attemptable.
You have to do some crazy.
I had to look up a guide
quest
finally in order to beat
figure
him.
out how you can even damage.
Yes, so that I don't know. Like off the top of my head, that's like
almost too hard, but an unrealistic too hard for me.
Yes,
where it was like
You can't
again,
just
go and figure out a good strategy.
It's such
He's
an
not
end game thing that's
and,
fine. Like have like the last thing I do in the game.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Grinding was really hard.
I think that might be that might be one. Like getting
one
to max
only
level
of these
is
later ones
actually is the toughest. Yeah. So all right, number 2, we're getting there. I think we were flipped. I have 7 as number 2.
Oh, you have 7 as number 2.
Yes.
Okay.
So again though, like I was just saying,
so hard. These top
it's
3
so
are
hard.
so like
These top 3 are so hard. I think I have flip flopped them each time I like tried to write out this list. So I got 7. I was just a bit younger. For it. It came out at 97, right? So like I was 96, 97. So I was like 1 when it comes out.
Yeah.
So you guys were a little bit older playing it. Mm-hmm. So that's where I don't quite have that memory of like Chad running around controlling it for me doing the battles. I think I really did start with 9, but I got a little bit older. It came back playing 7.
I didn't really get in this with mine, but how 7 made it as my favorite. I will never forget the moment that I first saw 7, and it blew my mind.
Yes, I have that memory.
Were outside, Anlina's swimming, Chad's inside. We're all like, what is Chad doing inside? Why is he just... He's playing a video game. We're like, what is he doing?
Why aren't you swimming in the pool?
I walk in, and I'm like, what are you doing? Why aren't you playing? And I see him, and he's at that point where you're jumping, and you're about to get Alexander. And you're in the hot springs. And he gets in a fight with the wolves. And once that screen switched and the wolves came out and the graphics jumped.
The battle graphics.
The battle graphics where you see Cloud, a full figure, standing there with a giant sword. His hair looked like Super Saiyan Gohan.
Yes.
Probably one of the
outfit did, another Dragon Ball Z factor.
Attacking these things, and he did some magic, and it was like, wow, my mind was blown, changed forever. Absolutely mind-blowing. Immediately was like, what is this game? I need to play it. Now I understand why he's inside and not swimming.
So I have this similar moment too. I can remember, I think the first time seeing it, and it was in the very beginning, after the first Mako reactor explosion. You're escaping as Cloud, trying to meet up with the rest of the group, and you're getting cornered by the Shinra troops, and you jump on the train. And I remember just seeing the part where he gets cornered, and you're like, uh-oh, you're stuck, he's gonna get captured. And then he jumps off onto the train. It does like the little scene, Still the polygon graphics, right?
Not great,
but he still jumps on. And I just had this...
Still, I mean, we're talking 97. We're going from like...
the 2D sprites, to actually seeing like... I know he doesn't look real, but it's like the train, and that looks real.
I don't remember though if we had like...
I had this moment I thought
might have been out at the time, so you might have still had some of those, Mario 64
little 3D
at the time,
ones,
I think. I don't even remember if Smash Bros was out. I should probably look at it.
Right?
Like,
yeah.
So you had those kind of graphics, so it might have been, but
still our first time seeing it, and I remember thinking, oh, he must be at like the end of the game. Like shit is going down. The main like this guy almost got captured. He just narrowly escaped. He's jumping on a train. He's probably like it's the end. That's the first couple hours you play.
Yeah.
7
literally within an hour.
7's probably one of like the best starts of Final Fantasy. Yes. Like you are just hooked. You're on board. It gets right to it. We can sing 7's praises all day. I mean, characters, music,
so good.
One of the best villain music. One Winged Angel, just absolutely outstanding. I think the only reason it's at number 2 and number 1 is 10. Final Fantasy X, I have number 1, is a little just more personal, honestly. I do have to go down and break your ranking. 10 was like how 9 was. It was the next step. Your moment of 7, of it blowing your mind, that was 10 for me. Yeah. Of when we first heard it.
This is my story. Yes.
That moment, it was absolutely mind blowing.
I got goosebumps.
Absolutely, like I still get goosebumps thinking about it. Just all of a sudden again, it was this life size, this real person.
Yes,
and then talking, and you're like, whoa. Yeah. So that just it's just childhood.
I absolutely love 10's story. I think that might be my favorite.
Why these are top 2? A big thing for me is the story. Again, is the biggest point for us.
Yes,
7 and 10 have the best themes throughout, and multiple themes throughout the stories. going to 9. 9 was a pretty classic story again.
Yes.
Like we're getting into these early ones, Final Fantasy 2, 3, Crystals, countries at war, bad emperor type thing. 7 and 10 kind of flip the typical Final Fantasy story in a unique way.
Story.
Yes. So going back to 7,
it's not just this
Midgar
medieval empire thing.
Yes,
that you typically face.
Yeah, 7 with the Midgard, how that's all, and like the theme of we're killing the planet. Yeah. You know, that's
such
big,
cool,
still relevant today.
I guess they didn't add the crystal factor, but it basically was. You know, you changed the live stream into the crystals.
Yeah,
basically what you're saying.
Different shape and form,
but still like such a cool, different take.
The maturity of the story, we're getting to like the psychological trauma of Cloud, still is like just probably one of the best in video games like ever. Just the best. Yeah, that the trauma, the layers, like to him.
God,
to this day, I still have so many questions. So many questions. Is this point?
And all they've done is just give us more.
Yeah,
all these other spin-offs and so many more questions.
Then you go to 10, and there's even more themes. They touch on even more deep, thought-provoking themes that just make you sit back and think. Yes. They cover racism. You have the Elbad. Even one of your characters, Waka, is like racist. You see his character arc change understanding. Mm-hmm. You have why are they basically hated upon? Oh, it's because they go against the religion. And then you have the whole religious side. You have religious controlling at the church. Well, then you got that all explodes, and that's all like a lie. So now what do you believe? You know, what is truth? You have that whole theme. Then you have...
Every character has their own immense arc that they go through.
that they really do.
Waka especially getting with that
great arc.
Talking his whole...
You watch his growth.
Racist and like huge religion, and then his world gets shattered throughout, you know.
Yeah, doesn't know what to believe anymore.
His story's
and then
awesome.
You get the classic, like, should one person sacrifice themselves to save the many? You know, you get like that theme. You get, little on the nose, sin. Yeah. They say he is our sins. You know, he goes away once. So then you have the, how do you atone for your sins? Can you atone for your sins? Right. That's also another thing. Shout out Advent Children at 7. I think Cloud says something similar to Vincent. It's like, can sins be forgiven? And Vincent's like, I've never tried. And he's like, what?
That's right.
You've never tried.
When he shows up.
So
you're right. Something
7 and 10 kind of little connection. But just, I mean, 10, childhood, the themes. There are some negatives. Again, we touched on the linearity of it.
That was why it's not number 1.
Right.
When so I broke it down, it was like,
if I break down the ranking a bit more,
story might
this will
edge
be
its way up a little bit higher. The leveling actually might be a little bit higher. Sphere system, it's very great. It's so cool.
It is great.
So cool.
I remember it like scaring me when I was really young, because it has the potential. If you mess up, you mess up. That's a whole level like wasted. If you went like backtracked.
Yes.
So they like
you could totally.
But again, that's almost like the fun of it. Is it's not just like boom, boom, boom. But again, like I still would love a solid level base.
Yes, that's one thing we've always talked about over the years.
I would just like to be like, Lulu's 17
level I'm on,
and Waka is 16. Okay, I'm going to use Waka for one more sphere level because he's behind.
I mean, you're probably in the hundreds easily, but like, it would be nice to know how many sphere levels have I leveled this guy actually, because you don't know, because like you're saying, you can backtrack, so you can go over some of them and then come back, so you can't even just like count how many nodes you've leveled. Yeah, because you're like, I don't know if I've wasted some of them.
Yeah.
Clearly, you do a lot of backtracking. You go in those circles and you backtrack and everything. So, like,
you have to go off on little arcs and stuff. Yeah. So then you have
those little details are what made it a little bit longer.
A little bit less, like the linearity. Last playthrough too, I always thought like there were parts you could go back. Like in Luca, you could go back to Kilika and even Besaid. And the last playthrough, I was trying to do that.
Yeah,
you actually can't. There are points where, like, when you're on Mian High Road, you're on Mian High Road.
Once you hit Luca, you can't go back to Kilika or Besaid until endgame airship.
Yeah. And even another thing I tried to is after Macalania, after you fight Seymour, I tried... I think even
that's
after...
another one, because you can't
I think even after Bavel...
You can't go back to the Moonflow.
Correct. I even went.
Go to there, but you
once
can't
you're in the Calm Lands now, I tried to even. I was like, I want to go get the spheres in the temples, and I was trying to backtrack, and you can't enter Guadalsalam. You can only go as far back as the Thunder Plains. when you go to enter
that's
Guadalsalam,
right.
they go,
right.
oh, Seymour's like, guys are here, like we can't go there.
I don't remember
So
if
you
that
actually
was
can't
original
fully-
or if that was the HD remaster. Because I do remember the HD remaster.
You had this problem,
added,
right?
Yeah, added to the temples. They had the dark
aeons.
Their dark aeons in those. And I forgot about them when I went to ran all the way through Makalani to the Shivas at the end just to get one shot, and I was like,
Oh,
dang it! I just wasted like 20, 30 minutes.
before
Forgot about that.
the games that don't have the auto save, and you just go
Yes,
right back a minute.
yes.
It's like, no, I went.
Some of
I
these
didn't
younger
save it
kids
for 30
will
minutes.
never
The
understand.
frustration of that.
Yes. Oh man.
So yeah, 10 does have a few bugaboos. The linearity to it, the not like a traditional level, but again, the good outweighing the bad is just so astronomical in this game. I know a lot of people could argue Tidus is very annoying.
Yeah, some people find it annoying.
Yeah, and the laugh,
Yeah,
right?
the meme, the Forever 10 meme of
Yep.
him laughing. But it's like taken out of context. Like it's such a good moment in the story.
I
actually.
absolutely love. I feel
what
like
happened?
you
The
feel
world
like
is shattered.
to me. I feel like it's the best example of I feel like this character. You always get to name the character, and that's always the idea with RPGs. Is you're supposed to
those
be
early ones. Yeah. We haven't even talked about that.
feel like the main character. You're always supposed to be relatable, and I think Tidus is that to a T, Banach, of just he is thrust in this random world, whether it's 1,000 years in the future, whether it's just like a whole new world, and you don't know. So he's asking questions, and people are giving him like the what the fuck?
Yeah.
But it's like he really doesn't know. I, as the gamer, as the viewer, the consumer, don't know either. So then
Right.
the story progresses very like organically with them explaining things. You're not like, you don't have that moment of you're like, why are they explaining that? This is like, this is clearly a video game. They're only explaining this for the video.
God, why are you telling
He's
us
like,
who these things are? It's like you really.
why
I
do-
love like in the beginning too when Lulu's like kind of explaining, and she's like, oh, "You really don't know, do you?" And he's like,
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, like
I have no idea this world.
Yeah.
I am completely in a different
And then you
world.
see them
And
start
it's
to
a
get to the
different,
point of
like,
just
that
telling
typical, oh, I have amnesia, so explain everything, every detail of this
they
world
do
to me.
that
It
like
was like, no, he's in a completely different world.
they do that trope of like, oh, I have amnesia, so you have to explain everything. And
Yes.
this world is new, and this is why we're exploring. They do that, but without like just in a great way, without the amnesia.
Just the fact
You
of
are that.
him
You
telling
watched-
the story.
Oh,
and
that,
it
oh, didn't
being
even
a story.
didn't even touch base on that. Oh my
Like,
goodness,
the whole every moment of him just like retelling you
what
as the player
yeah.
is like what he's feeling, what he's thinking. You get so much in depth of the story.
Yeah.
But then also being it's always at his point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many things that you miss
Right.
throughout, like from seeing everybody else. Where in a lot of the other Final Fantasies telling the stories, you're gonna see everybody else's point of view and
It's
them talking
more
without the main character.
around story. Yeah.
So like all right, sorry about that. We ran out of space. Need to get a new memory stick for this thing. Where were we at? We were talking about your number one.
I think we did get to
Final
the
Fantasy
number
10.
one. Yes.
We were talking about the main parts about it, and I think the last thing we were touching on the music.
Music. Yes. Again.
Absolutely,
I think
incredible.
Honestly, I think why number one. I'm a music person. And
Tech guy.
I think it is. I think it might have the best music of Final Fantasy.
The feels that it gives you,
Goosebumps
throughout.
it gives. Yeah, the feeling is really the best part of it. I think we talked about this a little bit one day. 7 does an outstanding job of themes. Of Star Wars, they call it like a space opera. And I remember reading something. George Lucas was basically saying, he's like, I want you to know who's on screen without you looking at the screen. So you know Darth Vader or the bad guys are on screen. Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun.
yeah.
You know it's Luke, Han, and Leia when you get the little lighter music. The doo-doo-doo, you know it's on Tatooine. Stuff like that. 7, we were talking about this. You know who's on screen without even looking at it.
Yes.
You know it's the Turks theme.
Everybody has their theme.
You know it's President Shinra. You know it's Shinra.
Yeah.
You know Yuffie's theme, or the kind of carefree theme. You know the Chocobo theme. You know you're in. You
Absolutely.
So that does an
good.
outstanding job. But like 10, the feeling,
Yes.
the intensity, the vibe of the music.
Like we were talking about, the opening scene.
Oh man, yeah,
So incredible.
yeah,
So incredible. I had to incorporate it in a little bit of the title.
yeah,
It's
right.
just that moment where they're all sitting at the campfire and the music is going through it. Then you see all the weapons,
the piano.
You can just feel. You don't even know.
You don't know
this
the first time these new games start.
But you know immediately something is very sad going on.
Yeah,
something is very somber.
In the first delivery of his speech, it isn't like, "Hey,
this is my story," and you're like, "Wow, this has got to be like a sad story.
This is gonna be something, yeah,
sad happening here."
And
it takes you a long time. I mean, it's a long time to get to that, but
yeah.
Again, the music of it sets the feel and the tone for the game right out of the gate.
And
before
then
you even hit the title screen.
Yeah, before you
hit new game.
Yeah. And then shout out, I don't know like the name of the track, I might have to dig and do a little more research, but shout out the like first metal track in Final Fantasy.
Otherworld, I believe.
Otherworld,
it's called.
Don't.
One more on Spotify. Yeah.
Can't say anymore because of copyright now.
Well, I don't know. Hopefully we're not copyrighted or any of these things.
We do this out of love.
We're saying all of this is Final Fantasy. All rights. Hopefully they don't cancel us.
Right. Yeah. But, so then it comes in with like that, just that metal, that kind of harder rock.
Yes. Just the scene when he's in the Blitzball, you open it and
and you're like
already
you haven't even done anything, and you're just like this outstanding awesome. Score, this music, and then it just continues. I feel like I could tell you every place's like music. Like Besaid, it's like, oh yeah, like that's a vibe, like that's a good one. Then you get jumping a little bit, but then all of a sudden you're like Thunder Plains, like that's great. Makalania, that's got Mount Gagazet, it's a vibe. Yeah. And then we get to, like we were talking about earlier, the moment when you realize the beginning is, I'm telling the story, and then we get to the point of the story where you're caught up.
Yes.
I think might be one of, if not my favorite Final Fantasy moments.
So good.
Getting to Xanarkand, having that moment of catching up to the title screen, and having that moment of holy crap, that's it.
Yeah.
That I forgot about the opening scene.
Yeah, and you're like, that's what was going on. I totally understand that feeling, that somber. Like,
yes, and then now you're at the end of your journey. Like, you have not figured out how to save Yuna, but it's the end. It's time.
Yeah.
And they nail home that feeling with the music, and then it not changing in battle. That is one of my favorite things. Yeah, it's my favorite Final Fantasy things is that whole little stretch of Xanarkand.
Your thing is
and
just sad.
Little things that they do. The music doesn't change in battle, so it really sets in all of a sudden like, this is it.
Yeah.
And then they don't even do their victory like poses. I remember that. Titus isn't even flipping his sword. You end the battle, and they continue their normal stance.
Nobody is.
And like you get this feeling of even the characters. Aren't happy.
Throughout the game, there's to that point too. Throughout the game, they will randomly say things when they're in the battle.
Yeah,
like Titus will attack, and he'll have a saying like, I gotcha. I forget what exactly it is.
Riku will be like, good job. It's just
like, Wakka's like, yeah, throws it. They stop that.
They stop any of voice
and so it's just like you get that complete feel that everybody is completely depressed.
Yeah, they're
cut that one out.
Yeah, right. Background noise. Hopefully, didn't pick it up.
Yeah, just that whole feel is in that stretch of that final stretch of that game.
Yep.
You're right. Probably one of, if not the best moment in all Final Fantasy.
Oh yeah, I
don't know. That's what I don't understand when people put 10 so low and they're like so mad about the lineage.
Oh, I don't like Titus, and I didn't like. Did you get to? Did you beat it? Like, did you play it?
Yeah, I guess just people don't care for the story. Some of these people don't care for it, and just there for a gameplay.
If you watch some people streaming, like every now and again, I'll throw on just try to watch a little clip or something like that. And yeah, people are I get you're streaming and that is the point, is to go through the game. That's
But
a lot of people, they are just skipping, and you can tell they're not reading stuff, and they start skipping scenes, and I'm like, why are you playing a game?
I'd always get that sometimes with friends. You go to a friend's house, and you'd be I wanted to show them this game when we were younger, and then they were just like, let's get to the fight, and you're like, are you listening to what's happening right now?
No,
this is amazing.
This is why we have to do the fight because of this.
Going on, I remember 8 being the most kid going to my friend's house, showing him 8, and he would not care too much. He just thought school was cool, but it was being like, do you know what we're doing? We're on this mission, we're fighting this thing. You have to, this giant mechanical spider thing's chasing us. This is awesome.
Yeah,
and we're these not super soldiers, but special agents almost.
Basically, military
guys, and we're like, this is
specialized
cool.
soldier. Yeah,
going 7 right away. I'm trying to explain this to my son. He's 5 years old, doesn't care. But what's going on? We were just
just
blew up a
exploded
reactor.
this
We
thing.
blew up this guy.
Probably killed a couple people.
Yeah, a lot of people. We turned off the lights for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, we're terrorists, quote unquote, at this point.
Yes.
In like, what is it, Rebel? Like,
Are we good
No,
guys?
he doesn't
We
get it.
kinda-
He's 5
yeah.
years old. He doesn't get it.
Mhm.
But like, I remember kind of understanding that when we were younger, and that was like so cool for me in the story. So
Yeah. So
But-
that is.
That's
I
our
could
list.
sing the
We could keep
praises of
going on
10
and
even
on.
more, but that is, I think my 10's at the
we've gone
top.
through. I think
And
we've
that
gone
is the
through it
list.
enough.
Yep.
While you went through, I think I explained why mine were where they're at. We're pretty close.
Shockingly.
Yeah, so
Right.
Big surprise.
But I think if I went through kind of how you kind of broke down your ranking,
Yeah.
if I went through and did that a bit more thoroughly, I think mine would switch a little bit as
Yeah.
well. But I mean,
But I could do the same thing where like I did that one as like a
more objectively.
objective. Yeah. And if you did it as a point system, is kind of more how I did it
Yeah.
that way, and it kind of got it.
Which was fun
But if
because you
did
saw a
it,
couple
like,
jump
we
up.
say we value the story, so it was like if I really broke it down that way, and you go like the value of the story gives it more points than the battle system does,
or the customization.
that might change it slightly.
Yeah.
But
So
this was
again,
just a good way for us to sit through. It's an age-old question we always ask ourselves all the time.
Yes.
We've always wanted to sit down and actually like write it out
yes,
and discuss
so
it.
it was a lot
So
of
we
fun
thought we
going
would
through
start
each
this.
one.
We'd love for you guys to continue this journey with us. We're going to keep doing some of these, hopefully, and have other topics down the road. If you have any ideas, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to have any sort of discussions. Like we said, we can go more in depth in some of these games.
Yeah, we could do
or we
another-
could do other lists of our favorite main characters.
favorite main characters,
List those favorite characters in general, villains.
best villains, best starts, like best
Yes.
opening couple hours.
Yeah,
best,
we love Final Fantasy as our probably
best
our top.
spin-off titles.
Yeah, spin-off titles.
Top of that one.
We may delve into some other categories, some other
Yes.
video games down the road
Shout out
once we run out of something.
Tales of Arise or Dragon Quest.
Yes, some of those ones that we've recently
Hidden
been playing.
Gems, Legend of Dragoon.
We also get sidetracked very frequently, so
Yeah.
it might be like we started a new game. This also was in light of Final Fantasy 16
coming
out soon.
Summer?
Yeah, right before my birthday. It's
Yes.
June 22nd. It comes out.
Final Fantasy 16.
I have not pre-ordered it. I am going to do so as soon as money comes in.
we get money from this?
Unfortunately.
No.
As soon as money
So
comes
subscribe.
in.
Click that like button.
I'm so free. I am very excited. A little.
So that could be
scared,
another episode.
But yes, another one that probably will be down the road.
Or we might
a
even
lot of
delve
people
into
like
some
this.
anime.
I'm
episodes.
really excited because I'm finally in it in my actual.
Yes.
There's a Joshua.
We don't know for how long though.
Yeah, it's true.
It's
Yeah,
pretty,
it
I
does-
think, obvious.
seems a dark
Again,
story.
spoiler alerts, but
Yeah.
I think it's just in trailers and it's pretty obvious. I think a big thing that happens
Yeah.
is
It seems like we haven't got much on it.
I don't even
but
want to say
seems
it,
like
but
the beginning of it.
Joshua might not be in it.
Yeah, might affect how the main character Clive seems to change. But
yeah,
anyhow, so that's just the generalization of what we want to do here
Here
on
to
this podcast.
talk about
Again,
Final
this is-
Fantasy and
yes.
create more discussions of
discussions
Final
with
Fantasy.
us.
Yes,
We'd love to have conversations with all of you. This has been Super Frank with Super Sanctus
and
Frankie J.
And super frankly, that's our ranking of
Yeah.
Final Fantasy main
Super Frank.
our main title games.
Yeah. To be super frank.
Super Frank, yeah.
Final Fantasy 7's best.
Final Fantasy 10, I don't know, there's argument.
The main gist I think we could agree on is to be super frank, 15 is bad.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Final Fantasy, great series. Go play any of them. Maybe not 15. Or start with it, because it can only get better.
Only get better. Anyways,
But,
thanks for watching.
Yes, let us
so
know in the
much.
comments your list and
Yes.
your rankings and ideas for future episodes.
Yeah, and that's it. I think a wrap. So thanks again for watching.
Yep.
Like, subscribe.
Absolutely,
And
like, subscribe.
we will see you next time.
Listen to my story.
It all begins here.
I know.
This is a one-time gig.